Welcome to the Quantum Healthy Podcast. I'm Andeea, a licensed addiction counselor, and along with my co-host, Laura Kissman, a quantum nutritionist, we will be inviting expert scientists, clinicians, survivors, and thrivers to distill their pearls of wisdom attained from applying quantum biology to their fields of research and everyday lives. Our goal is to bring you easy to understand principles and practices about the study of light, water, and magnetism so you can take your health into your own hands. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Quantum Healthy Podcast. We have a very special episode today. And before we start and before I introduce our beautiful guest, I want to just set us up here. So we talk about all the time on this podcast how we are electric. And this is because it's in our best interest to keep our bodies as healthy as possible and at healthy voltage. And we've had many guests on talking about grounding and how our bodies are electric and why we want to stay connected to the earth as much as possible. And this is really because we are living in a real modern world where we have to start looking at our light environment, the food we eat, the water we drink, the things that are in our home. And this includes the clothing that we are putting on our bodies. And that is what we are focused on in the podcast today. So I want to ask if you knew that polyester clothing actually, and synthetics for that matter, create a static positive charge on your body. That's the exact opposite of our goal of wanting to have our bodies negatively charged when it comes to our voltage. And so this is why we're taking a look at this topic. I've been on a journey of wearing more natural fibers for a while, and this is another question you might want to ask yourselves. Am I wearing fibers that are 100% natural? They are getting harder and harder to find. So that is another reason that this topic is so important today. And we also want to ask ourselves, so our clothing doesn't come with an ingredient label. So we don't know what our clothing was dyed with unless you know the maker. These are questions that you have to ask. And we're really talking about what would it be called? Farm to body today. So I have been on a journey of shifting my closet for over 10 years now, and it is a work in progress. And I actually did 2 episodes on the Quantum Recovery podcast about the frequency of clothing. So I will link them in the show notes. And I also have a whole tab on my website called Clothing that I will also link below. And our beautiful guest today is on the website in one of my favorite brands, because we are talking about how to find this type of clothing I'm talking about today. And in my opinion, she is the mecca of resources for that. So this leads me introducing my guest today, or our guest today, Andrea Crouse, and she is the founder of Gaia Conceptions. This is a bespoke clothing line that features organic, naturally dyed clothing, and they are known for their sustainable business model. And Andrea is also the designer, seamstress, and dyer, along with a team of 3 other women. And they cut and they sew and they dye your clothes, and they are made to order. This means that the item, I'm wearing it right now actually, the item does not exist until you order it. And they use very organic materials, some of the fabrics are even locally sourced, and then they are dyed naturally or with non-toxic dyes. And Gaia is very fully transparent on their website on how their garments are sourced, made, and priced. And it's something you have to visit. That will also be in the show notes for you. But Andrea, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. Welcome.
Thank you. And thank you for such a great introduction. You really covered it well. Sometimes people don't quite get me right, but you nailed it. That's exactly what we do.
So people know, the way I met you is I had actually a Toxi-Free coach, and her name is Laura Pulisic of Toxi-Free. And that is how
I love her so much.
Yes, we all love Laura so much. And that's how I met you, through her membership. But when I first actually met you was when she showed me her closet and how all of the clothes went together. Not only did they mix and match together based on how they're sewn, but they matched together because of the way that they're dyed. It still is so surprising to me how natural dyes, they all match. You don't need to think about it. Everything will just go together. And we'll talk all about the dyes and everything today. But why don't we just start how you got here? How was Gaia Conceptions born?
Okay, so I started Gaia Conceptions around 2003. So I was 22-ish years old. And I would just go to festivals and things like that and sell clothes. I'm trying to think where to start. So when I was 10, my dad got diagnosed with MS, multiple sclerosis, which they were linking to like a prepubescent exposure to an environmental toxin. And so when he was a little kid, he swam in a lake where they were actually dumping battery acid, like old batteries. And then he also cut himself and got a staph infection from leather. There was like, he's a hippie kid in the 60s and 70s, and they would carve belts. And so they don't really know exactly what led to it, but like at a young age, in my mind, it was like, oh, my dad got this because of an environmental toxin. So at a really early, informative, developmental age, I was thinking about how your environment effects can really make you sick, right? Which is not what most 10-year-olds really think. Something doesn't usually happen to you at 10 where you're like, wait a minute, if I swim in a lake, I can be in a wheelchair the rest of my life. Like that kind of thing. So that right there sort of, I think, planted a pretty foundational seed of thinking about these things. And then I was just like a young hippie kid at App State in the late 90s. And that I grew up with like, my teachers were from the 60s and 70s, so they would be telling me about environmental stuff or saving the rainforest. And so these were just really sort of foundational ideas that were planted at a young age. So I was always thinking about what are we going to do with this environmental problem we got ourselves into here? And at a young age was like, I want to figure it out. I want to be a part of the solution, right? But I had no idea what that meant exactly. So I started out in fashion design in college. Didn't really fit in per se. A lot of the other people were going to New York to work for Betsy Johnson. There was no real concern with how clothes were made or what they were made from my peers and the industry in general. But App State had just started this program where you could combine different majors. Like you didn't have to just be like, I'm a fashion design major. You could be like, I want to take environmental studies courses, sustainability courses, and I want to take fashion design courses, and I want to teach myself how to do herbal stuff. Whatever you could take, you could pull. I'm an art student, so you could pull from different classes and make your own thing. So I ended up leaving Appalachian State, but all of a sudden that planted the seed, as in you don't have to be one thing. You can take all these things that you're interested in and turn them into your thing. So that was a seed that was planted. And then I just kept going, and I switched my major to sculpture, and I started making all of these interactive environmental sculptures, like about environmental problems, and also continuing to make clothes for myself and people who wanted stuff. So I was honing my skill, but not actually selling anything, just doing it. And then I would say right around the early aughts, I started selling stuff at festivals. And that helped me start to realize, oh, people are looking for this or that. And then I took an independent study on natural dyes because you couldn't learn that from anybody back then. This was like 2003. Like you weren't going to go online and find a natural dye class. And I just happened to even come across it because I had a book about like organic gardening, and there was a tiny section about how to have a natural dye garden. And I was like, oh, I was like, so wait, you can make colors with plants? And I was like, no fucking way. So then I took that book and I started to find everything I needed so that I could test it out. And I talked a painting teacher into doing an independent study with me so that I could teach myself natural dyes and how to do it and see what colors happen on what fabric. So then that started to inform me on a bigger scale. I started actually doing it with the clothing that I was making. But even then, it was pretty hard to find like organic fabrics. I found this a big company now. It's called Enviro Textiles out in Colorado. They did hemp and cotton. But when I first started getting fabric from them, it was literally a picture of fabric in a spare bedroom. But now they're a huge company that sells to huge, big corporations and all bars. Mm-hmm. They do cars and all kinds of innovations that they do. And they're actually trying to grow hemp in America because there's just not enough hemp here to actually make clothes. And even if you have enough hemp, there's not the machinery and the factories to process it into fabric. So it's $1 billion investment that someone's going to have to make to have US grown hemp fabric, because a lot of people who want to grow hemp in America want to do it for CBD. And the hemp that's really good for a fiber isn't necessarily really great for CBD. They're pretty different plant, and they also grow better in certain areas. So it's going to take people being like really interested in it who have a lot of money to then invest in it. And then there's probably a lot more money in selling CBD than there is in hemp fabric. So that might, I don't know. There's
Hopefully we can shift that.
everything about the hold up. Yeah, I don't know everything about the hold up, but that's my guess is that some. And then there's just depending on the politics of the moment. Like when Obama was president, there was a lot of money being given to those kinds of ideas, but there's zero money being given to those ideas now, like research and stuff. So I went off on a little bit of a tangent, but back to me. So then I moved to India for school, and there just so happened, so there was this thing called the International Natural Dye Symposium, and it's in a different place in the world every time they have it. I don't even know if they still have it, but it just so happened that it was in Hyderabad, India, where I was living, and I was a student. So I went for 30 rupees versus $300, which would have been like totally not something I could have afforded. So then all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, there's all these other people who are interested in natural dyes too. Because it's people from all over the world. Predominantly there was like people from India, from all over India who would come. And then that's when I started to learn about Aravastra, which is this medicinal. They don't even necessarily, it's almost like they make a tea. What do they call it? It's like a kashium. It's basically, think of an herbal tea that you put on fabric before you dye it, and maybe you won't even dye it. So it's neem and tulsi, and what are some of the other, pomegranate. Basically just they're proprietary blends. They don't tell you exactly what they are because they're ancient. I started reading this book, and it's like there's reference to kings in India having an Aravastra practitioner who would make special clothes for them 3,000 years ago. So it's been like going on for a long time. They know Ayurveda is 5,000 years old. They're not quite sure how much Aravastra is, but for sure they see references to it like 3,000 years ago. So they've been doing this for a long time. It's not a new concept, right? This is ancient, it's ancestral. Every place has its own version of this. It's just modernity got in the way of it, right? And covered it up or replaced it, but anywhere you go, like I'm listening to a book right now called the Vickery's Loom, and it's all about the Vikings and their textile history. And something I just learned that I didn't know was, so the word text comes from the word textile, because textiles used to be how we wrote, through weaving, through telling stories, through cloth.
Oh,
So women told stories through weaving, through cloth, spinning a yarn, right? These phrases come from in ancient times or even medieval times. Like part of how we communicated was through weaving it. And men would tell stories verbally, but the women would tell stories through cloth. And there's all this stuff about witchcraft being connected to cloth, and female power is connected to fabric and cloth, and they're trying to separate us from, like when you think about spinsters, like that's what they would call women who weren't married. That comes from spinning the wheel.
Yep.
And so women who could spin their own yarn could make their own fabric and then sell it. They didn't need a man.
Yeah.
They were independent. So that was threatening. So that had to be turned into a negative. Oh, she can't get a husband. She's a spinster. So no, actually, she just doesn't need one. But it got kind of shifted to being like, oh, that's negative. But actually, it was an empowered woman that they were trying to make it sound like she was bad. But there's moments of rising and falling of all of this stuff throughout history. And in the last couple of years, I've really just been devouring any kind of information I can get on all of these different things, because I'm just so fascinated by it because of my own work, that I'm like, oh, I should collect all this and write a book or make a school and try to share all of this, not only my life's work as an artisan, but then also just like the history of women and cloth and making. And all of that because it's pretty fascinating.
This episode is sponsored by Viva Rays, the only eyewear company that truly understands your biology. Viva Rays are advanced blue light glasses designed with circadian biology in mind. Unlike typical blue blockers, they filter light in harmony with your body's natural rhythms, helping you sleep deeper, feel more energized, and protect your long-term health. We love companies that support biology-backed wellness, and Viva Rays is leading the way. Use code Quantum Healthy at vivarays.com to save 15% and support your sleep, focus, and natural energy the way nature intended. Enjoy this episode.
But
Yeah.
then I come back from India. I've been doing festivals and stuff like that before then, but nothing major. The internet still it's there, but it's not exactly that easy to make your own website like it is today. You could kind of do it. But then Etsy happened. And a friend of mine was like, "Oh, you should put your clothes on Etsy." And I was like, "Oh, whatever. I'll just do the festivals," because I was still in school and it was something I could go to the festivals in the summer, make a little money, and then focus on school during the year and go back and forth. And then I put my clothes on there and I did it made to order because I couldn't afford to make a bunch of stuff and hope that somebody bought it. I'm just a student. So I was like, I could make an example of what I could make. And then Etsy already kind of had it set up where you could tell people this is going to take a couple weeks for you to get it and things like that. So I did that. Same time I was applying to, I got into Northwestern, free ride in Northwestern for the master's sculpture program. Same thing, Chapel Hill. And then literally this right around the same time I got my letters that I had gotten full rides to these master's programs, Etsy featured me. And it was just exploded. Like all of a sudden I was like, I can't make all these clothes. What am I gonna do? And I had to hire people to help me, and so I brought in a couple people. I was still doing everything out of my home. I was dyeing everything in the same washing machine that I wash my own clothes in. I was cutting shit out on the floor. I had blisters on my hands. My poor mom was like, "You need to figure out different scissors. This isn't gonna work." And I'm like, "I don't know. I don't know what to do." But then I figured it out, right? I got electric scissors. I was like, surely factories don't use these kind of scissors. What do they use? So then I sort of researched that and I figured out they use these electric shears. And it just really grew slowly from there. I moved the studio out of my house. I got my own little space for a studio and then quickly grew out of that and then moved to where I am now, which is about 3,000 square feet, which is actually a really nice size for like, I'm not really focused on most companies are always like, we got to sell more, rise more. And I just want that like sweet spot where myself and my employees are comfortable. We're not overworked. We have like good work life balance. I feel like I can really just give because when you're talking about energetics, that's also the energetics of everybody making your clothes.
Yeah.
What does the person feel like making your garment? Were they compensated fairly for their time? I see like leggings for sale for $30 and I'm just like, that is full of sad people energy. Great, you got a deal, but like the energy of the plants involved in the making of that garment, the energy of the human energy that's involved in the making of that garment, and then just the people who work for the company that are selling it for that cheap. There's when you think about what it costs to live a day in America, there's no scenario where you can take a plant and turn it into a pair of leggings for $30 and everybody got paid what they should get paid, right? And like corners weren't cut. And a lot of these places have really figured out the buzzwords, right? Like organic. They'll
Big,
say stuff like fair trade, but I'm just like, in
big.
what world is this? How is it fair trade? I don't, how is this happening? Because I know what it takes for me to make a garment and to buy how much they're probably buying so much fabric, they're getting it at a lower cost, but that's still a devaluation. It doesn't cost less to have more, right? But that's how the whole system is set up, right? The more you buy, the cheaper it gets. And it's just like, yeah, but it doesn't really get cheaper. There's still all these this human energy, the place where it's grown, like the cost to the land. So it's like we've traded in something really actually stunning and beautiful and important for cheap and fast. Right. And I totally get it. I want more clothes too because I like clothes. But also it's like that thing where it's, oh, we really got to like, my site actually forces people, we don't sell a whole lot because people know that they won't be able to return it, right? We force you into ownership of your choices, right? Like you're like, okay, I've got to make a decision. I've got to really think about this. It's not exactly a great business model,
No,
but
like
it's
I'm
one my soul can
a,
live with,
as a
right?
frequent shopper of your website, I like being more mindful because in my past, I was a impulsive,
It's
compulsive
set up to
shopping
make
addict.
you do
And
that.
I would return stuff all the time. And I
They
don't
make it
do that
easy.
anymore.
They make it so easy. I don't do it because of myself and what I know, but if I was didn't do what I did, I probably would because I wouldn't think about it, right? Like it's just the whole system is set up to encourage you to behave that way. So, of course, that's you're going to behave that way. Like I'm still have to force myself not to look get scrolling on Instagram. I'm like I have to be really mindful. It is very much designed to tap into the human brain, right? And like all of these things that we needed to survive, we've evolved to survive over the majority of human life, right? They've literally hijacked it
Totally.
very successfully. It's impressive.
Yes, bringing on this, excuse me, this shift for me helped me with my shopping addiction.
Yeah, yeah, because it makes you think about it. It makes you think about it. You're like, oh shit, if I make a choice, and you can still make a choice you don't like, right? I'll make things like testing things out, and I'm like, oh, I don't really like this, but like I have to live with that decision, right? Because it's like getting a massage, right? You're going to go to a person and get a massage, and let's just say they give you a massage, but you're like, wasn't my favorite. But like, then you're not like, reverse the massage,
Yeah.
give you the massage back, right? It's the same thing. It's like we're providing a service, right? We're allowing you to have this creative moment where you're like, I think I'll try this fabric and that dye and then this neck and this thing. And then when we're like, okay, we're going to take our expertise and we're going to take that and we're going to make it real for you. But like, you might not like it still. I hope you do. And you probably will. I've tried to make it so the choices aren't like crazy or anything, right? 9 times out of 10, you're going to the thing you got, but there's still a chance that you might not. And the way forward is to then find someone in your life that might like it, sell it. But the way clothing is sold, it's sold in a way where it completely removes the artisan, right? It completely removes like
Oh, yeah.
their autonomy, right? Like it's just, oh, you can just say, you can just send that back. Like they're all their work doesn't matter.
So I
And
want
they
to
do
take a
that by
second here.
charging you more, probably.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
you're buying the thing. That's the other thing. If you think about those $30 leggings that are returnable, they're really probably only spent $1 to make it because they have to make a profit. And then they also have to pretend like you're going to send it back and they still make a profit even when you do that. So it's got to be like they're barely paying the actual people who make it anything at all.
Yeah, and I'm glad you circled around to that because I just wanted to take a moment to highlight anyone listening, go to GaiaConceptions.com. Andrea has broken down the exact cost of the fabric, the sewing, the dyeing. And you use like a beautiful art
Yes, the lady with the circle, because
up into what the things are that,
how we spend our money.
yeah,
Like we're actually selling our garments at the wholesale price. We remove the middleman, right? So you're coming directly to where the source. So we're if you bought our clothes from like a store, they'd be at least 30% more, probably 50 to 100. Like they would be a lot because then the retailer would need to make money off
right.
of it. So we're basically selling it to you at a little not at cost because then we'd make zero money. The next step, right? The next step, which is the wholesale price, which is what we would charge a wholesaler, and then they would charge another 30% on top of that usually. But sometimes it's it's usually 3 to 10 times as much
I
than
have
what
to
paid
say,
for it.
so you never don't have a sale going on. You are always so
I do always have some kind of like incentive, either a gift or
at this. This is free with my order.
No
And
way.
I ended up getting one of each color you were giving away. I absolutely
I'm
loved
glad you
it.
like those. So we do a lot. So we end up with scrap fabric, right? And
Yep.
the one time in the very beginning, I had scrap fabric, and I was like, I don't know what to do with this fabric. This is too small to make anything. I guess I have to take it to the dump. And so like we had these bags of scrap fabric, and we took it to this place, and this like machine came out and grabbed it and smeared gross stuff all over the fabric and took it back. And I just was like, because I was watching all of this can't be closed, but it just felt like wrong. It felt deeply like wrong, like what I was watching. And so then I was like, we're never doing this again. We've got to find a way to do something with our scraps. So for years, we had this garden space that's like across from the studio. It's like this crazy magical thing that happened. There's this big piece of land that's right across from the garden in downtown, basically, of our city. It's rare to have land, but it
Where
was
are you,
a
Andrea?
school board.
Whereabouts are you in the world?
Oh, Greensboro, North Carolina.
Okay.
So it's like in the middle of the state. Like you could drive 2.5 hours and be in Asheville, or you could drive 2.5 hours and be at the beach. So
Okay.
it's not necessarily where I would have particularly chosen, but I just ended up here because I went to college here, and then I started my company here, and I hired people, and then I was like, I guess I'm never going to leave. And it's a nice little small, it's the third biggest city in North Carolina, but hardly anybody knows about it. Everybody knows about Asheville and Charlotte and Raleigh
Yep.
and kind of Wilmington. But it's kind of got the right lifestyle for me. I can go 10 minutes in my car and go like a hike in the woods with my dogs or walk around a lake. There's a Whole Foods and a co-op, but like I can get anywhere in 10 minutes. It's like until recently it was like a much more affordable place to live. Like you could buy a home and it wouldn't be like astronomical. That's shifting because so many people are moving to North Carolina. I don't have kids, but from what I'm told, they have some of the best just like public schools in America, which I'm just like, really, Greensboro? But apparently it's a thing. So yeah, it's a nice little southern town, but it's small. I think there's only about 300,000 people,
There's
which
land, and what did that have to do with the free samples?
oh yeah, I'm sorry. So then there's land that belongs to the school board actually across from the studio, and my partner, he was like, I wonder if they would let me put a community garden there. I was like, I don't know, ask. So they basically said yes. And so we could use the scraps to sheet mulch the garden beds that we would build for the community garden. So that was worked for years as we like brought in new people and they needed us to build a bed. So like we would use the scraps to sheet mulch. So there's, I don't know, 30 or 40 garden beds at that eventually. But now they're gone. We've let the orchard part take over. But then this other company, thank God, came to North Carolina outside of Asheville called Material Return, and they take fabric scraps and chomp them up and turn them into new fabric. So now they come and get our fabric. So that was huge. And there's multiple textile things still here in North Carolina. There's TS Designs, which is like a t-shirt place. He's the one that I partnered with to do the organic cotton grown in North Carolina, which didn't end up lasting. I think I just took that fabric away from the website because we used it all up, because partly how that whole project was like, he basically got different, I think it was just me and him, maybe one other company here, to put up the money up front for the farmers because they don't have the money to risk a failed crop. So it was like, okay, we're going to put the money up front and then you can buy the seed and grow the cotton. And then if it doesn't work out, then it's okay. Right. So we did that. In the first couple of years, it was like really successful. But then in the last year that they did it just totally failed because it's wet here. So our climate actually isn't great for growing organic cotton because you need a fungicide in case it gets that cotton wet.
Oh,
And that, because that'll ruin the organic cotton. So I think what we all just learned is North Carolina is not the place to grow organic cotton. Texas is. So Texas has the right climate and the right rain cycles to where it gets the rain at the right moment for the cotton plant, and then it doesn't rain after the cotton comes out, kind of like wine, or it's just really regional. Certain crops grow better in certain areas organically if you want to grow them organically. And we just, part of why we use pesticides is to force the growth of certain things that really shouldn't be growing in a certain place. It's not ideal. So we ended up not doing any more NC cotton, and now I get my organic cotton from Texas farmers, and then that goes to a mill in South Carolina and gets turned into the fabric that
yeah.
we use. But I keep having trouble with that fabric doing weird dye stuff. So I keep working with the guy who basically weaves the fabric, being like, okay, this batch, 3 of the rolls were fine, but 2 of the rolls, when we dyed, it gets this crazy line on it. What? Why did it happen? Like,
Yeah.
I've never really had much problem with our hemp cotton blends, but the organic cotton can really have a lot of problems as far as dyeing it as an artisanal dyer. It works okay if you have them dye it because they have this really controlled dye system to dye it with. But I don't want to use already dyed fabric because that just, in my mind, feels like a lot of waste. As far as, why would you dye a whole yardage of fabric when you can make a garment and then dye it?
Yes.
Because then you're going to use way less dye because you've got like
Well,
half
and
a yard of
well, your
fabric.
scraps to make the new material where if you have a bunch of different colors, the material will come out funny.
That's right. They probably love me because all of my fabric scraps are natural.
Th- Yes. So
And
oh, go ahead.
I bet TS Designs is too because he has a dye house. So
Oh,
I bet he garment dyes. He's
oh,
got a really cool steam powered dye house. Whereas I went in there one time and it was like, he's got professional dye machines where he's big thing is t-shirts, and he'll sell t-shirts to different companies that want to put their logo on it or whatever. So he's got that kind of a business. But I think he's doing natural dye stuff in his machines now
that's
because
awesome. That's
that's pretty cool, controlled. I don't know. I haven't checked in to see exactly what he's up to, but
Can I ask who you guys are talking about? I don't.
TS Designs is the name of the company. It's in Burlington, North Carolina,
okay.
and they do mostly t-shirts with like print, like screen printing t-shirts, but they make the t-shirts. So he's like, when I was in college, I was taking a class on biodiesel, and one of the places we went was his factory because he had a biodiesel machine set up to run some portion of his factory, which the biodiesel class taught you how to convert your car to run on biodiesel, and it taught you how to make a biodiesel machine to basically think a generator that could run anything. And one of the places we went and looked at his, this was when I was just starting. I still had Gaia Conceptions, but I hadn't met up with him to do the cotton thing yet. That happened years later. Years later, I met up with him and was like, oh, yeah, let's do this cotton thing. And I was like, wait a minute, I think I've already met you. Like when I was younger, I came here and saw your biodiesel thing. So, yeah, he's just one of those people who's probably a decade older than me that's been like a pioneer before I even came of age, right? And like alternative forms of energy and things like that here in North Carolina, and trying to do things in a more sustainable way.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so we touched on fabric. I want to touch on the dyes now. And
Okay.
a lot of people do not realize that dyes they're not all of them, but they can be plastic, which then hence you are literally wearing clothing that's not only shedding microplastics because the fabric is actually plastic, but not only that, now you have toxin on top of toxin because your dye is plastic. So tell us just a little bit about, I definitely want to get into the healing properties of your dyes. And
Yeah, I'll
then
start at the beginning of what would be like the worst dye would be like an azo dye.
Yeah.
So an azo dye, a lot of companies use azo dyes, but they've made them illegal in parts of Europe. You just can't even use them because they're so toxic, because they don't really bond with the fabric. They run off. They use heavy metals to make the colors. They're just like, why would you bother? I guess they're cheap. I don't know. They're petroleum.
To Die For is about those azo dyes and how they were making the airline attendants sick because that's what they were clothing with.
When they probably do in certain industries, they'll put flame retardants on things and kids' clothes and just all that stuff where they're really just chemical. They're petrochemicals. There's a lot of money behind those things being used in the chemical industry. Like they want to push those kinds of things because they want you to buy them and use them or whatever. But then there's just like glyphosates. You want to try to avoid that kind of stuff, like fabric. That would be the reason to choose organic fabric, because it's not going to be those extra endocrine disruptor chemicals are not going to be on the fabric like that. And then the terms, like you were saying, like Okiotex and what was the other one? Certified. Yeah. So a lot of times factories will use that because it's like a certification that will be GOT certified, I think is the one, or it might be Okiotex. It's one of them. Basically, that certification is a way of saying we don't use azo dyes. We're only using fiber reactive dyes. So fiber reactive dyes is what we use. And they're still a petroleum-based dye, but they're like the most eco-friendly, least toxic one because they actually bond with the fabric. So a chemical reaction happens where they become one with the fabric. So that number one, they're not like off. Dye isn't coming off right when you're washing. Maybe a little bit will come off like in the first couple of washes or something like that, but they don't use heavy metals to make the colors or to bond to the fabric. They're like, if you're trying to balance two things, like with a fiber reactive dye, it's the most eco-friendly, non-toxic, petroleum-based dye. And the reason you might choose that is because it's going to not fade. You're going to be able to wash it a bunch of times. You're going to be able to spill shit on it probably and clean and wash it out. It's not going to be as sensitive to the environment as a plant dye would be. So a plant dye is you're basically just staining the garment, right? There's a little bit of a bond happening. So the bond can be done with a loom. There's other just dyes that themselves that are high in tannins that just want to stick to the fiber already. Pomegranate, you could use pomegranate as a mordant if you wanted to. We use tannins, which are like an oat gall, or we'll use that first before we put the alum on because we use plant fibers and plants don't want to stick to plants. That like plant dyes really easily will stick to silk or wool, but they don't really want to bond with cotton or hemp. So we'll use tannin, which will open the fiber up a little bit and make it like just more friendly to receiving the color. And then we'll put the alum on, which is this aluminum sulfate. It's the same thing that they use to preserve food in a can, right? It's not in the low doses that we use it. It's non-toxic. So that then becomes like the glue. So that's like the next layer. And then you start layering in the natural dyes and they'll stick to that alum. But that being said, the sun can bleach it out. If you left something out in the sun, it could bleach it. If you spill like something citrusy, like
cutting a lemon, I don't cut any lemon.
Certain detergents, like it's gonna bleach it out. It's gonna react. Like it's actually can be like really fun to play with, like naturally dyeing something and then putting like citric acid, the like powder, and then it like lifts the color out. It can make these really beautiful nebulous looking colors. But so basically then there's all these medicinal properties within these natural dyes that are next to your skin. It's like you're basically wearing a tea. And then there's like you can then do research on the ancestral magic or the historical uses of these plants and wherever were prominent. And when people, like for example, indigo was prominent in India. Madder. Cochineal was in Peru and Mexico. And so they have all these beautiful oral histories and meanings for these dyes that are ancient, right? They're ancestral. So you can look into that. And then there's just the herbal properties of it in general. Indigo's, like, most of these are antimicrobial, antiviral, and anti-inflammation. Almost all the natural weed dyes we use, they'll all do a little bit of that.
Yes.
But then they have further specific things that they do as well, depending on which one it is. But then you can just think about like the energetics of the plant. Like, you could think about madder as a root. So madder root is in the ground. So then you can think about that aligns with the root chakra. It helps ground you. It helps you be closer to the ground because it literally is in the ground, like it's a root. So you can even take it from that perspective and look at it from that perspective. So I'm creating a school right now where I'm going to teach people how to have everything they need to make their own clothes. And then there's also going to be lessons on how to make your own devotional garments, right? So like, I'm going to kind of give you this information, and then you can combine these things however you want, kind of like how we do for the customer. But what if I empower you to do it yourself, right? So like, you're going to be able to say, oh, rose is the heart, like the red, I can use rose petals to put color on this, and then think about intention, right? Because intention is another energy, right? What is your intention? What are you thinking about? What are you feeling about whenever you're doing any? So yeah,
That's so awesome. You just mentioned 3 natural dyes, and that makes up the color amethyst, which I have so many amethyst.
Yeah, you're wearing it right now. So that one's a layer.
So yes, use madder, cochineal, and indigo to make this color.
Yeah. So how I make that one is I do the mordanting process like I told you a minute ago.
You don't have a sleep problem, you have a lighting problem. Most modern LEDs flood your home with flickering blue-rich light that keeps your biology stuck in a daytime mode, delaying melatonin and spiking cortisol, and harming your sleep. It's time to get back in sync. Introducing the Better Sleep Bulb by In Rhythm. It's the only flicker-free, infrared enriched, triple mode, dirty electricity free bulb designed to mimic the natural shift from sunlight to firelight. Toggle between 3 modes to effortlessly support your body's need for repair and deep restorative sleep. Stop fighting your biology and start supporting it. Use our code QuantumHealthy for a discount. Click the link in the show notes to transform your home and your sleep tonight.
Then I have this big pot that
mordant is. That's a new term. Mordant. Some people
mordant. Yeah, so mordant is just the thing you put on there to make the dye stick, a natural dye stick.
Okay.
So it's a pre-treatment. It's just like what the term they use to describe that there's different mordants, but the one most people use for plant fibers is a loom. Even pomegranate, it could be used as a mordant. We use it just for the color, but you could use, there's a new one that I just started noticing becoming more readily available, and it's a plant. It's a way to make this something as powerful as a loom, which is a metal, right? That is actually from this plant's leaves. But when I was looking into it, it's like really labor intensive. You have to boil the leaves for a really long time, and then you have to let them sit. Then there was like another step, and I was like, whoa, okay, this could be a cool thing to teach for the devotional garments. But as far as trying to add it to our production as an option, I'm like, I don't think we can. It just would be too much. But fun that there's this option that if for people who wanted to completely only have a plant-based garment, right? Nothing but plants, this is what they could use.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can take it in the next level. I just ran into a friend, and she was telling me there's literally religions now that are completely centered around only wearing linen. I met someone and they only wear linen. That's their religion.
Yeah,
like
the frequency of linen is 5.
Yeah. So I was like, that's so fascinating. I was like, now people are worshiping the linden plant and that's all they wear and stuff like that. And I was just like, that's cool. Not for me, but I'm glad that there's people who are doing it.
Now, you were just talking about healing properties. So you called this your spank. Like you think of it as
Yeah, hippie, I call it hippie Spanx because it's like a bodysuit and it's tight and it's fitted, and you can wear it underneath a garment. You can wear it on its own, of course, but
this is so you have different lines of clothing. So what we're talking about, the one I'm holding up right now, is called Love Me Two Times garment because you can wear it as a waistband or you can wear it as a like a onesie. And I didn't even think of this as like Spanx, but it totally is.
Yeah.
This fabric is thicker than what I've ordered in the past. I like it much better. Anyway,
it's a new one. It's a new one that I just developed because I was like, I really want something that's a little stronger because our waistbands have a tendency to just wear out over time. And I was like, I want something that it's got more like it's gonna like really just stand the test of time. So I actually worked with I developed it with the mill. Hey, I want this to be a little bit more this way and a little bit less that way. And so this is a very special new we call it the medium stretch cotton. And it's a new
stretch. And so this is sunshine with fustic wood.
Yeah, which I might actually be changing that color, like the dye I use to what is it? Weld? I always get weld and woad mixed up. One's blue and one's yellow. But weld is the yellow one? Yeah. Just because fustic wood's getting harder and harder to find, but it yields a pretty similar color. So when I switch over, I'll just change I'll tell you all about, I'll have to research about weld and add that to the color choice because I'm like, fustic wood's getting really hard to find. Where we were getting it from, they said they're harvesting it sustainably. So I'm like, okay, hopefully they still are, but
this is even though it's probably a pain for you, this is why just like the food we eat has to be in season, the clothing we make, you may have to wait for the plant to be in season if you want a certain color, right?
Yes. And it also like touches on the fact that I can't really recreate things. One of the questions we get a lot is, can you make it just like this the color on this garment, right? And I'm like, no, like the variation isn't because I have control, right? The variation is there because I'm not in complete control. I've given up some of the control because I want to work honestly with plants that demand a little bit of control here, right? Like they're not going to allow me, they're going to be different depending on the season when they were grown. For example, when we get a batch of fabric, we'll save scraps, but there's only so much of the scraps we can use because by the time we get another batch of fabric, if we made a garment with one of the necks was out of, like the neck was out of the scraps and the body was out of the new fabric, it'll take the dye different. So there's only so much of that we can do because it really is like a symbiotic thing that happens. Like this, it's like a song. Like when the artist plays a song, it's not going to be exactly the same if they're doing it live. It's going to be a little different every time. We're not for you if you have an idea and it's got to be that idea, that exact idea, right? Because we've created a lot of grace and space for nature to speak through our garments. And so you got to be down with that.
Yes, so I'm holding up, if people are watching on YouTube, I'm just holding up some pieces from my latest order that I made. And I love getting this stuff because I'm familiar with the colors and I have other pieces, and it really doesn't matter if this is a little bit, let's say I bought this because I needed it to match something I already had. Like I don't care, and I do know that it's not going to be exact, but the variations, it's just crazy. Like how this matches this.
Yeah.
And it's because it's the natural dyes have an undertone that match each other. If it's from nature, the undertone will always match. And
they mostly all go together.
Yes, they really do. And so, I'm always like when I get something like this, I'm like, oh, I wonder what the design will be. But this is nature. That's it. You're literally wearing the
Yeah,
natural
you have
process.
to just like
You have to
let you have to just let go. Like I kind of really love it because I'm very type A. I'm very like I'm gonna do this. I make my list, and then it's just good luck. You're not actually in control. You're gonna have to just let it go and just allow this to be what it's gonna be.
Yes.
And so it's a good, let's just say there's good energetics in the studio when your garments are being made because I'm riding a wave in a way when I'm in there making things and just allowing the materials to speak for themselves.
Yeah.
And that gets more and more powerful the more and more I work with the plant dyes and work with the medicinal, just the things that are just medicinal, all sorts of fun things start to pop up. And even just in my dreams and things like that, if I start working with a new plant, I'll start getting little messages and little nods. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is cool. So I really want to do more of that. But often I get busy just fulfilling orders and making
Well, you
things or
do
whatever.
have a section on your website where there's one of a kinds, and I want to talk a little bit about the order process because this is where the consumer needs to trust you. So on
It's a little overwhelming.
yes, it can be overwhelming. So when this isn't your typical add it to my cart. You have to pick the fabric you'd like. You need to pick
Yeah.
the color that you want and the size that you want, and your sizing details are really great, really detailed. Everything is there for you to successfully create that, but be open to the fact that when you first order, like it happens to all of us, like when I first ordered, like some of the stuff, it was not like it didn't look good on me or whatever, but I knew, okay, I know now why she's got three different pant legs, right?
Yes.
What I ordered was I had ordered the Love Me Two Times leggings, and I didn't quite like, I didn't really like the leggings, but what I do love is that fabric, the Wanderer pant. Like I am a Wanderer girl. Like I
Yeah.
always wearing
You
the
figured it out. You were like, this is my jam. I like this shape.
yes, like I probably won't order I probably won't order a legging in the fabric that I ordered again. But just know that you have to trust the suggested fabrics. If you go rogue, you have to make
Yeah. We sometimes we say what the fabric is in the picture
that's
for
so
sure. And
yes.
we try not to offer it in anything that would be just like we know is going to suck. But like it's really hard for me to know what you think is going to suck, right? Because what I've found is like I'm like, "Oh, I don't want to offer this in the let's just say this design in the medium hemp because I think that's going to be too heavy for this design and I think it's not going to function
Yes.
well." As soon as I make that decision in my head, someone emails me and says, "Hey, can you make this in that fabric?" And I'll be like, I'll explain to them like, "Oh, it might actually be a little too heavy." And they're like, "No, I want the heavier fabric. I know I'm familiar enough with what you do that I know that I'm going to love this."
That's what I
So
did with this swimsuit.
everybody's so different.
I did that with the swimsuit. I called you guys, or I emailed you rather, and I was like, I want
That's right. You did do that. And I was like, if you're going to go swimming and do some laps, I don't recommend this. If you're just going to be lounging by the pool and maybe taking a dip, like I wear my bodysuit to the hot springs all the time and I love it. I'm just popping in and out of a hot spring and doing nothing too crazy. If I was actually really I'm going jet skiing or I'm going skiing, that is not the swimsuit I would wear.
Yeah, I actually, so I'm going to use this as an example too. So I have a sewist who makes things for me, and I had one of your tops. I didn't order it from you guys. I think it was one I got on eBay. Anyway, I never wore the top. And I don't know which fabric it is because I've never ordered anything with that fabric on my,
Oh,
but
you're
it
not
didn't have any give.
it
And
was like a woven.
it yeah, maybe, but I had my sewist make me a bikini out of that.
Oh, nice.
Not great. It was a mistake in that I cannot wear that suit in water. I can wear
Yeah,
it just to lay out in the sun if I'm going to be dry
right.
because as soon as I put it on, it stretches. And then, so that's a perfect example of where you guys would never even have that option. That was me just wanting to recycle the top. because I wanted something new made out of it. And I'm happy I have that. It's just a suit that I don't wear wet. But like this, definitely.
Like, I think we're really good for people who can just roll with it, right? And just like, oh, this isn't quite what I wanted, but like, I can turn it into something else. Or now I know that like that shape isn't great. I'm going to try this other shape. Because I try to do a good description of each shape. But I do think that sometimes it's a little bit lost on people that like, we literally have fitted and then it goes up from legging to simplicity, which is just a very simple shape, high, which is like a little bit of movement, like it's in between wander and high. So like basically if you don't want something that's super flowy like wander, but you don't want it as fitted as simplicity, high is the one for you, because it's gonna like
in the middle.
Like I love wearing high because I don't really like things tight across my belly. I like just a simple, like just little bit of room.
Yep.
But I don't want something as big and flowy as the Wanderer, because that just like, it's not as functional, right? To just like run around and run errands and, I don't know. That's like the shape you want when you're like, I'm going to do a ritual or like that. But that's me, right? So another person would be like, what are you talking about? I'm going to wear the Wanderer all day, every day to the grocery store and the market and to do my workout. So everybody has different things. And as a seller, as an artisan, I have no idea what those things are. So I try to give as much information as I can so people can figure that out. But sometimes that literally is ordering and then realizing, oh, actually, I think I would have preferred this to be a little fuller and all of that. Sometimes we can do alterations. So we do offer free alterations and over dyes. So if you get it and you're like, I just don't really love this color, or it's too long, or I wish the sleeve was shorter, I need this hem. If you hit us up within 7 days, we'll do it for free. All you got to pay for is the shipping.
Yep.
So we can tweak things up to a certain level. But if you're just like, hey, could you totally make this into another thing? I'm just like, no, that'll take more time than just like, it's too time consuming to change the neck or change this thing. But we can
literally just doing a whole new garment at that point.
At that point, if you start having to spend time like undoing things, like you can't just cut it, then it starts to take longer than just cutting and sewing it. Really deconstruct a garment.
Yeah, I love that you guys do the over dye and you list on your website if it's X color, then these are the colors it can be. And so you have an idea of, you have to be realistic. They can't dye something that you ordered in black to be so yeah, they can't.
Probably no other color but black.
Yes.
But yeah, and it'll still be even a little different because you got whatever color you ordered as the base color.
At the base.
So let's say you got like the color mustard, which is like a bright yellow, and you're like, I don't love this. I want to dye it rain cloud, which is like a bright teal, blue, green color. It's not going to be quite what rain cloud looks like because that yellow's underneath there.
Yeah.
So it'll be, I don't even know. I'd have to do it to see, right?
One of the things that I wanted to share was I had ordered, it was in the organic velour, and I have never found organic velour besides with you guys.
It's hard to find. The only people I know who do it is the same mill we get our organic cotton from. That's it.
It's wonderful. And I had ordered it with really long arms with thumb holes. And for some reason, I never wore the top. And so I contacted y'all and I was like, I think I need the sleeves shorter. So I measured where I wanted you to cut it. And you then included my little handcuffs.
We sent them back. That sounds exactly like that was probably Kate's idea.
Yes.
Because she probably was the one who, I'll tell Kate you said thank you, because she's the one who would have probably done the alteration, and she was probably was like, oh, we should put these back in there. That the thumb hole one can be a tough one because everybody's measurement from here to here is different.
Yeah.
On some people it's too long, on some people it's too short. We're usually a little more generous versus less generous because, again, if you got it and it was too long, we can make it higher, but we can't make it longer.
Exactly.
So that's partly why we err on the side of it'd be better if this was a little too long for the person than if it was too short.
Exactly. And that velour is a thicker material, so it was probably just a little bit too much material on the arms, which is what the reason I wasn't wearing it. But any which way, you offer I'm bringing these things up because it's my experience, and then also just so people know how amazing you all are. And yeah, the ordering process is something that you guys got to trust. They know what they're doing, and you're always
And
offering.
just ask us. Like, I'm so happy to answer questions. Try to see if you can find the answer within all of the information I give, just because I try really hard. I've spent a lot of time trying to answer any question I can think of, but there's still things that you could ask me that would be very unique to you that I could answer that you're not going to find on the site. And I don't mind answering or pointing you to the answer. Yeah, it's always just good to ask and really just read through. If you go on the site and you're at the top, you click on shop, it'll come down and there's literally a thing that says how to order. And if you click on that, we tell you, here's where you can read about the fabrics. Here's where you can read about the colors. Here's where you can read about size. And then also those things pop up as you're making your choices on the product page. So you're like, okay, I'm going to choose light hemp. Then it's going to give you a description of light hemp and its weight. But not everybody really understands what 3.5 ounces a yard means, right? But we just hope that you see, oh, this is lightweight, this is medium weight. And we try to use multiple ways of describing something so that different people can, figure it out. One of the things I learned as I used to teach kids, like when I was like 20 years old, I taught at an art school, a summer camp type thing. And I started to realize I had to say the same thing 5 different ways. Okay. Because everybody hears and learns things differently. So, but later in life, that's helped me build the website because I'm like, oh, I have to try to say the same thing in a bunch of different ways because not one person's going to totally get it when they read that, and the other person's going to get it when they read that.
Yeah.
So, but then it also can make my website feel a little overwhelming because it's a lot of information.
It is. It takes a little bit, but if you love something, you can also just, if let's say you love a color or you love a style, you can just put that one word in the search and everything in that is going to come up. And
that's true. Yeah.
And
find all the super cows, all the wanderer shape stuff. And there's even
that's amethyst. What does this item look like in amethyst? And you can, if you like her, you can see amethyst.
You can the word of that color in, and you could see a bunch of different versions of amethyst, because amethyst is probably the most like wildly varying color, right? Because it's 3 different natural dyes, and at any given moment, like they're going to come across as different. But we've got a couple of fiber reactive dyes that are like that, like wheat, the color wheat. I never know what that freaking color is going to do. Like I've tried all these different things to be in control. Oh, I'm going to make sure the temperature is like this, and I'm going to make sure I use exactly this amount of soda ash, and I'm going to weigh the fabric before I put it in all the garments and get the exact weight, and then base that off the dye. But I really realized like there's no controlling this when I had dyed like maybe 5 or 6 garments in the color wheat, and when I took them out, there was 3 different colors of wheat within the same dye bath.
And that's so like beige, light pink kind of vibe.
Yeah, it's kind of like a off-white, like a tan.
Yes.
But sometimes it goes more of a pink undertone.
That's a pink, yeah.
And sometimes it goes more of a green undertone. Oh. And there's absolutely no freaking way for me to know which way it's going to go. And it'll go different directions within the same dye bath, right? On different garments. So I'm just like,
oh, interesting.
So I'm not kind of unusual for a chemical dye. They're a little more predictable, and
that's part of the
fun. Not that one.
We want to thank you so much. You've given us so much of your time today, and I want to ask you one of our signature question. but we're going to put a twist on it. And that's, what does quantum clothing mean to you?
I think it's just clothing where every part of that garment and every person involved in the making of that garment and every plant has been honored, right? Has been considered. And that's it, right? When you wear clothing where the soul and heart of everything involved in that garment was given care and love and respect, it absolutely vibrates at a different level. It gives you something special, right? You walk into the world with whatever you need it to be, a shield, support, encouragement, comfort. Like, you create an opportunity of safety for the garment to give you its most beautiful message and blessing, right? Because you honored it, you gave it respect. Like, when you give the world around you respect and love, it gives you so much in return, so much more, right? The earth just wants to give and give and give and give and support and support and support and support. So the second your brain just says thank you, something magical happens.
That's
beautiful. Andrea, we both want to thank you for so much here. Thank you for your commitment to, I'm stealing this from your website, the true slow clothing, slow fashion, the things you're doing to encourage fair trade with clothing, all the sustainable production that you guys employ, and the environmental considerations, and something in particular we didn't talk about, I don't think here, but where you're getting some of your fabrics, where you're partnering with Women Weave in India to bring organic cotton farmers, natural dyers and weavers together. And then, I learned this from your website that you're supporting their founding mission to help local women live better lives by making.
I'm one of many who work with them. They do that. That place actually is incredible, where Maheshwar, where they do all the weaving. It's like a very female centric place. So the history of that place was, there was I guess you would call her a queen. They probably have a different name for her, which is also extremely rare in India, right? So there was a moment where she was being invaded by a male dominated army. Or another kingdom was coming to invade her kingdom. And she said, what honor will you have what honor can you gain by defeating a woman or losing to a woman? And he left. He was like, you're right. And he didn't invade. So that remained her kingdom. And so there's all this female centric stuff there. And so the last time I went to India, which was 2023, we went specifically to that area so that I could talk to Women Weave. Before, I just was ordering stuff over the internet or whatever. And I was amazed at just like what was going on there. Like I've forgotten the name of the river that runs through there. But so the river that runs through there, I've got two stories. So the river is so powerful there that the river Ganga, which is another holy river in India where lots of people go to worship and have their bodies burned. But this river is so holy, the river Ganga goes to this river to bathe. So that's how holy the river is. The river Ganga turns into a white cow and goes to this river to bathe. So there's a temple out in the middle of this river. And so me and the models were like, oh, let's take a boat and we'll do like a drone and we'll get like a cool shot of like us on the boat and all the clothes, and we're on the river. And we got we couldn't get the drone. So there's I can't remember what the deity is in the temple that's in the water, but the drone wouldn't go near it. The drone stopped. It wouldn't let us so the drone was like doing just fine, like cruising along with us. And then all of a sudden it was like, there's literally a force field around this temple that's in the middle of the river. It was crazy. I was just like, oh my God. this is amazing. And several of our models that were with us at that moment are from India. Like that's where they live. So they were just like, yeah, to them, it's just like, whatever. That's just the power of this goddess. Right. But yeah, it was just like stuff like that happens when you're there.
Oh, it's incredible that you've partnered with, and
Yeah.
these women are like now have like profitable, sustainable, meaningful,
Yes. Yeah.
you
So
know,
these are
source of
women,
income.
this queen, which is, I'm sorry, but I don't know the like exact year when all of that happened. But it provides them like an income, like a nice income, right? To work. And so they naturally dye the yarn and then they also weave it. So it's like a weaver's guild, basically, who does
Oh, okay.
this, all of this weaving, and all different people buy fabric from them. And I just happen to be one of them. But
Thank you for supporting
yeah,
them.
yeah, I haven't
Also,
gotten from them in a while, actually. I need to do another order.
it seems just listening to this that you referred to this other maker of t-shirts that you were 10 years behind him, TS something.
Yeah.
That I think that you're now a pioneer for women's clothing. You may not realize that, but
Right. I think I've reached that level. It's weird for me to say that because I always have more to learn. But at the same time, I'm starting a school, like I was talking about earlier,
oh,
where
amazing.
so you'll be able to go in there and there's going to be the different patterns, right? That we were talking about earlier, the different shapes. So
Mhm.
you'll be able to pick your shape and pick your
The
length.
wandering and the
Yeah, based on what you want. Pick
right.
your neck, pick your sleeve, and then put it together like a paper doll, right? So it's not typical how patterns are made. Typically, when you get a pattern, you have all the pieces there. You can't piece them together in that way. So I'm building a world that's totally different than what's typical of how people make clothes. But then also within that, I'm going to teach people how to naturally dye it. And then I'm going to have a class on just how to make your own devotional dyes for you uniquely or like for someone else. So I'm in the process of building all of that right now. And it'll be like a subscription. So when I launch, it'll have those base things that I talked about. But over the course of 5-10 years, new patterns will be added, new dye classes will be added, ways to change the garments to make it like this is what you can do in it. And now it's a jacket, right? It's a way for people to build their own Gaia garments when I no longer want to do it because I ain't getting any younger.
Sustainable.
So,
Yeah.
what happens when I'm essentially going to pass the torch to the individual at some point? So, I'm building up to that
Oh,
basically of okay, when I no longer have the capacity to manage people and run a studio, and because that is absolutely getting harder and harder in the current economy. Like I waited forever to just raise my prices because I was trying to keep things affordable, and then it was just like I have to, I can't actually make this. I'm losing money. I'm basically making things for free at this point. So it's okay, I have to shift that. And I'm not really sure how much longer, depending on how things go, whether or not I'll be able to continue to do what I do, how I do it in America. I could potentially move to India and set up a studio there. And
we need you in North America though, because
I know.
we've lost the knowledge how to do this. So it's so important that you're part of this. And I think this, I'm going to call it like a healthy clothing reform movement. It's happening. People are demanding like
So, yeah, I think it's
is this
for me,
clothing
it
healthy?
doesn't feel like it just because we were so busy. We were so much busier in the past, but there's just been a lot of other, the internet has become this place full of other options, right? Like when Gaia
Right.
Conceptions started, like you really, you couldn't even really get that many clothes on the internet in general, but you definitely couldn't get organic clothing.
No.
And then I think because of COVID, that's the busiest we've ever been. What it did is it got all of these other clothing companies online because they all of a sudden couldn't have stores. So people couldn't go to stores. Like all of these bigger clothing companies went online. So then that created a level of competition, mostly just because Facebook and Instagram and all of these places where people used to find me organically, they can't find me organically anymore because there's all these roadblocks set up by Facebook and Instagram. We're not going, in fact, we're going to oppress your visibility unless you give us money, unless you pay for advertising. So I don't really have enough money to pay for advertising. So it's because of that, this organic growth that was happening where people were just running into us and we're like, oh, cool. That the loss of that, people just are not going to find us now unless I pay Mark Zuckerberg for people to find me, or something like this where people might organically find me this way. We did have a pair of pants go viral on Instagram or TikTok, but it wasn't my post. It was someone else did one of our garments. I've never had anything like that happen, but we were really busy January, February with Anoki pants and Fox, which was really exciting because Fox is a natural dye color. And so I was like, oh, this is gonna, I don't think that the young people who bought the pants had any idea that they didn't care about the fact that it was a naturally dyed garment or that it was organic or eco-friendly. They just cared that some other person told them that they should buy it. So they went and it went viral and it just spiraled or whatever. But I was like, oh, this is a cool opportunity for a lot of people to learn about this natural dyes. It was linen, so I could talk about the vibrations of the linen and all of that stuff. But that's sort of petered out. But one thing that is kind of funny that happened simultaneously. So did you guys see the monks when they were walking for peace?
Oh, I heard about it. Yeah.
It was on the East Coast. So they went kind of from Texas through the East Coast up to
But it was for peace, right?
Yeah, it was just a walk for peace. So they had a dog with them, and one of my employees is Buddhist, so she has her temple here in town, and they stopped at her temple. But anyway, this whole viral pant thing coincided with them. So as they were walking towards Greensboro, the rise of the Anoki orders, it was like busy. It was like 15 a week, 20 a week, 100. 200, 300 Anoki pants in just 1 week, right? It was like up. Literally the very biggest order day that we had for those pants was the day the monks were here in Greensboro. And then it trickled down after that. Wow. I have no idea what the energetic connection is, but there definitely is one, right? I'm not Buddhist. So like, but I'm just like, what is the deal? And even the color Fox is really similar to the color of the robes they wear.
Yes, that's right.
What is the connection? And I often find myself in like places that are heavy in Buddhism. I went to India and Nepal, and I was supposed to go on to China. So I went to Lhasa, right? And from Lhasa, I was supposed to ride the train through China. That was the original trip. But then when we got there, it was like Chinese New Year or something. We didn't realize what was going on, but we could not get a train ticket through China. So we did this overland trip back through Tibet, back down to Kathmandu, Nepal. So we spent 9 days just going to monastery, Buddhist. I've seen thousands of Buddhas. It was like the universe was just like, you're not going to the Great Wall. You're going back through Tibet and you're going to see all of these Buddhas and go to all of these places. So there's a weird connection there. I'm not really sure what it is, but I try to be like, what is it? What am I supposed to see? What am I supposed to get? But yeah, maybe I was a monk in my past life. I'm not sure.
I think we should just maybe finish by saying thank you for persevering and staying strong in your values and beliefs and making this nutrient dense. That was actually Andea's term. I love that. Nutrient dense, non-toxic clothing. Nice. Yeah.
That's
so thank you so much.
Go. Keeping it juicy.
Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. You made it to the end. Thank you, Andrea, for being here, and we'll see you all next time.
Thank you so much for listening to the Quantum Healthy Podcast. We hope you found some value in this information, and if you feel inspired, please share it and leave us a 5-star review. This will help us reach so many more people. If you want to connect with Laura, you can find her at laurakistmanwellness.com and Andeea at andeearay.com. Links are below in the show notes. Now, go find some sunlight and embrace your own quantum healthy.